My name is Kelly Dale with Off the Beaded Path, and this is a part 2 video of a 2-part video series that we started on yesterday. So in yesterday's video, I showed you how to make this beautiful daisy pendant that my friend Ranga Shri of Shri Designs came up with. Now, I hope you showed Ranga Shri some love and you went and purchased the pattern from her website yesterday. Ranga Shri did an awesome job. Since she came up with the pendant, it was my job to come up with the necklace. So today, I'm going to show you how to make a very versatile necklace that will go great with your fun new pendant that we did on yesterday. So let's go ahead and look at our materials and what we're going to need to make this necklace. So to start my piece, I have a needle threaded with about 2 yards of thread. I'm mainly going to be using my regular size 11 seed beads at this point, but we will be switching over, so you may want to keep little piles of everything out just like I've done here. To start, I'm going to pick up 2 of my size 11s, and I'm going to bring these down, and on this 2 yards of thread, I want to leave an 8 to 12 inch tail. I want to do this so that way I will have enough room to go back and add my clasp and I won't have to worry about it. So I'm going to do 10 inches. I'm going to do 10 inches and I'm going to keep my fingers here and let me move that so I don't get that caught on anything. And I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come back up through the first bead again, just that one bead. And I'm going to pull the thread through. So when you do that, your 2 beads should sit side by side. Once they're side by side, we're going to take our needle and we're going to come down through the second bead. So it's almost like we're going to work a little bit of a ladder to get us started with our herringbone. So I'm going to keep my fingers on this. I'm going to pick up another 11. Right now my thread is coming out of the bottom of the second 11. So I've got my new one. And I'm going to take and I'm going to come right back through that same bead to make a circle. And now I have 3 beads all in a line. So I'm going to take my needle. You see my thread is coming out of that middle bead there. So I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come up through that same bead, or that bead I just added. I'm going to pick up a regular 11. You'll see here my thread is coming out of the top of this bead. So I'm going to come around to make a circle and I'm going to go up through that same bead again. Okay. So now I have 4 beads that are in like a semi line here. It's okay. We're going to straighten that up. And now I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come down through that final bead there of that set of 4. Coming out of that 4th bead, I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come up through the first bead. So the very first bead is the bead where my tail thread is, and I'm going to come right up through it. Now, because I'm doing this for you guys, I am not going to pull this tight yet. Otherwise, I would pull this tight. So I'm come up out of the first bead, and then I'm going to go down through that last bead again. And I'm going to put my fingers on it. And now when I pull it, I'm going to sort of hang on to these middle 2 beads and pull that thread so that now I have a little set of 4 beads here. My thread is coming out of the last bead, and I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go up through that first bead again. This gets me into position for where I need to be. And you can see now I have my tail and my working thread coming out of the same bead here. And I have 4 beads. Each one of these 4 beads will now become a stack. So as I work around, I can either work clockwise or I can work counterclockwise. It does not matter. Any way that I start, I have to continue that way until that changes. So I pick up 2 beads. I'm coming out of what I'm going to call stack 1 now. So I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come down through the very next stack, which I will now call stack 2. So the 2 new beads are going to sit on top of stack 1 and stack 2. So I'm just going to turn that a little bit. And I'm going to go up through the bead here. This is going to be stack 3. So I pick up 2 of my regular 11s here. I'm coming out of stack 3. And I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come down through stack 4. So now on top of my 4 base beads, I now have 4 new beads. Now you'll notice that the new beads sit kind of almost diagonal to each other, and that's exactly how herringbone's supposed to look. Okay, so I'm going to just turn it here so that I can see it on the side. My tail thread is always stack 1 until I get to this next section. So I'm coming out of stack 4, so I'm going to take my needle and we're ready to do our step up. So the step up is always the top 2 beads of our first stack. So I'm going through, I've only got 2 beads, so I'm going to go through those 2 beads. And I'm going to pull that through. So again, my tail is at the bottom of the stack, my working thread is at the top. So I'm going to do another row. So I pick up 2 11s. I'm coming out of stack 1. I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come down just through the top bead of stack 2 here. Okay, and again, those beads will sit on top and you'll see kind of how they just sit diagonal to each other. I'm going to come up through the next stack, which is stack 3. And again, I just go through the top bead of the stack. So now I pick up 2 11s and I just kind of turn it here. I'm coming out of stack 3, so I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go through the top bead of stack 4. So when I pull it, I now have 3 rows. And I'm going to take my needle and we're ready to do that step up because again, I'm coming out right here where my tail thread is. So to do the step up, remember we always come through the top 2 beads of stack 1. So I'm going to skip the first bead and I'm going to go through the next 2 beads. That's our step up. So I'm going to pull this through. And I'm going to pull that thread straight up just like that. So that this is what I have so far. I pick up 2 beads. My needle is coming out of the first stack. I'm going to take my needle and go down through the top bead of stack 2. And then up through the top bead of stack 3. Oops. I'm going to pick up 2 11s. My thread is coming out of the top of stack 3. I'm going to go down through the top bead of stack 4 here. And now when I turn it, we're ready to do that step up because again, if I kind of pinch it here between my fingers, this is stack 1 and I'm coming out of stack 4. Remember, we always go through the top 2 beads of stack 1 to do our step up. So I go through these 2 beads here. So if you count the beads on your stack, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means I have 4 rows. I need 6 total. So 2 11s. I'm coming out of the top of stack 1. I come through the top bead of stack 2. Pull this through. Turn and come through the top bead of stack 3. Pick up 2 11s. Come through the top bead of stack 4. And now again, I'm here back to stack 1. We have to come up through the top 2 beads to do our step up. So we finish the row and we do our step up. So that gives me 5 rows now. So I've got one more row that I've got to do to finish this little segment. So 2 11s, I'm coming out of stack 1 and I come down through the top bead of stack 2. Come up through the top bead of stack 3. Pick up 2 11s. Come down through the top bead of stack 4. And then we're doing our step up. So again, our step up is through the top 2 beads of that first stack. So for now, we are done with our regular 11s and we're going to switch over here to our Delicas. So from where I'm coming out, I'm going to pick up 2 Delicas and I'm going to take my needle and come down through the top bead of stack 2, just like I normally would. So when I do that, now the 2 Delicas are going to sit on that stack. So I go up through the top bead of stack 3. I'm going to pick up 2 Delica beads and I'm going to come through the top bead of stack 4. So now this puts a row of size 11 Delica beads on top. So I've got to do my step up, so I go through an 11 and a Delica. So I'm going through my 2 beads, but they're 2 different beads, and that's totally okay. So now we are going to pick up a 15, a mini, no, back that up. We're going to pick up a mini, a 15, a 3mm, and a 15. So your mini has 2 holes. Make sure both of your holes are good to go. So I pick up a mini, a 15, a 3mm, and a 15. I'm going to let these drop down. Now I'm coming out of my stack 1. I'm going to skip the 15, the 3, and the 15. And I'm going to come down through the other hole of my mini. Okay, so I'll have a thread in each mini basically. And stack 2 of my Delica here. And I will pull this through. Now when you pull it through, make sure it is straight. You do not want that thread twisted. So this is what it's going to look like. So now I'm going to come up through the Delica here on stack 3. And this time I'm going to come up through the mini and the 15. Then through the 3mm. And then down through the 15, the mini, and stack 4. It's very, 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 very important that you go through these stacks correctly. If you do not go through the stacks correctly, your piece is going to lay sideways. It's not going to lay nice and centered on your stacks like I've got here. And you will immediately know that you have not gone or you have missed going through one of those stacks. The biggest mistake is going through a stack twice. So make sure that you do this part correctly. So I'm coming out of stack 4, so I'm going to do my step up. So I'm going to come through the Delica of stack 1. Okay. And then up through the mini, the 15, and then I'm going to go through the 3mm. So I'm going to pull that, go through the 3, and now I've done my step up. So I'm going to pick up a 15, a mini, and again, look at your holes, make sure they're not plugged, and 2 of my Delica beads. I'm going to let these drop down. And it doesn't matter here. I'm just going to kind of flip it. Okay, I'm going to skip the 2 Delicas and I'm going to go down through the other hole of my mini. And I'm going to put my fingers on it here and pull this through. I'm going to pick up a 15 and I'm going to come back through this 3mm so that once I do that, now that new mini should be centered over the top of my 3mm here. I'm going to come up through the 15 and the mini right above where my thread's coming out of the purl. I'm going to pick up 2 Delica beads. I'm going to skip all this here and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to come through the other hole of the mini and my 15. Okay, so right now you've got a bundle of Delicas on the top and this is what I've got so far. So from where I'm coming out of that 15, I'm going to pick up 2 15s, sorry. And I'm coming out here on this left side and I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go down through the 15 right below that and the mini. Okay, and you don't want to go through the Delicas below it. You just want to go through the 15 and the mini. So that's why it's important to use a size 12 beading needle, because this will start to get tight after a while. And you'll see now how those size 15 seed beads here on the side closed in that gap. So now I'm going to go, again, I'm going to skip all this and I'm going to go through the other hole of the mini and the 15. And when you do this, just make sure that the thread does not get caught in any of those Delica beads there. The thread is going to be hidden under the mini. So now I pick up 2 15s and I'm going to come up through the 15 and the mini. And pull it through. All right, so I've made my first little daisy flower here. But if you look, I have this clump of 11s on the top. Here's the thing. Normally, we would come up through one of these beads, and it does not matter if I come to the one to the right or to the left, does not matter. But normally, I could come up through this bead, and then I could start my herringbone again. The only thing is if I straight start my herringbone, it's not going to look right. These Delicas are going to stick out and it's not going to be pretty. So we have to kind of go through all of these beads almost like we're laddering them together. So I'm going to call this stack 1. So I'm coming out of stack 1 and I'm going to come down through stack 2. Then I'm going to come back up through stack 1 again. And when I do that, I'm going to pull that thread tight. And you see what happened there? You see now they sit straight up and down and they sit right next to each other. So now I'm going to come down through the next stack, but instead of going through my first stack, I'm basically going to kind of go backwards, and I'm going to go down through stack, what would be stack 4. Because if I was here, this is stack 1, it would be stack 1, stack 2, stack 3, and stack 4. So I've already got stack 1 and 2 together. Now I'm going to get stack 1 and 4 together. So I'm here, and I'm going to come down through stack 4. And then I'm going to take my needle and come back up through stack 1 again. And again, when I pull this, now that's going to sit these together exactly like they need to be. So I'm going to come through stack 4 again, come straight down through it. And I'm just going to turn so that I'm working on this back side. And you see here how wonky these are. These front ones are pretty straight, but now these back ones are wonky. So I take my needle and I'm going to come up through stack 3. Okay, and you see when I pulled tight there, you see what happened? So now I'm going to go back down through stack 4 and then up through stack 3 again. This is getting the tops and the bottoms of all of these Delicas connected so that we'll have a nice start for our next herringbone set. I'm going to come down through stack 2 and then back up through stack 3 again. So when I look on top, now all 4 beads are connected on the top, and if I could see the bottom, all 4 beads would be connected on the bottom too. But you'll see now they're straighter like these are down here. If you don't do this, they're going to sit out and it's just not going to be pretty at all. So I'm going to start now with my herringbone again, with my regular size 11 seed beads. So the bead I'm coming out of, I'm going to call this stack 1. So I pick up 2 beads and I'm working backwards this time, but that's completely okay. All right, so I'm going down stack 2. I'm coming up through stack 3. I pick up 2 11s. And I'm going to come down through stack 4. Now remember, stack 1, we always go up through 2 beads. So I'm going to go up through a Delica and an 11. So you see, it does not matter where I start as far as my herringbone. And it does not matter which direction that we go in. We can go either direction, okay? But whatever way we start our segment with, we have to continue in that direction. So I was out of stack 1, I picked up 2 and went down through stack 2. I came up through stack 3, picked up 2 beads, and I go down through stack 4. And then I go up through the top 2 beads of stack 1 again to do my step up. So right now I have 2 stacks with my regular size 11 seed beads. So I'm going to continue until I have 6 total stacks of size 11 seed beads. All right, so you can look here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stacks of my regular size 11 seed beads. So now I'm going to be doing my Delica beads. So I'm going to pick up 2 Delicas and I'm going to come down through the top bead of the next stack. And if you have to make them sit in place, you can do that. Come up through the top bead of stack 3, pick up 2 Delicas, and I'm going to come down through the top bead of stack 4. And again, if you have to make them sit in place, that's fine. Now I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to do my step up. So I come up through the 11 and the Delica. All right, so here we go. This is where our minis are going to come in. So I pick up a mini. Get it down here. A mini, a 15, a 3, and a 15. So a mini, a 15, a 3, and a 15. And I'll let these drop all the way down. I'm coming out of stack 1. So I skip the 15, the 3, and the 15, and I'm going to go down through the other hole of my mini and down through just the top Delica of stack 2. And I'm just going to kind of hold these beads in place as I pull. Make sure they don't get twisted because they will want to twist. I'm going to come up through stack 3. And when I come up through stack 3, I'm going to go through the mini, the 15, the 3 millimeter, and then the 15, the mini, and stack 4. So again, if I pull it back like this, you can see I've not gone through stack 4, so I have to go through stack 4. That keeps this mini straight and looking good over my little stack here. So now I come up through the Delica of stack 1, and then to do my step up, I come through the mini, the 15, and that 3 millimeter. I pick up a mini, and no, a 15, a mini, and 2 Delicas. I got too many beads in this project, Lord. There we go. So 15, a mini, and 2 Delicas, and I drop these down. And again, I skip my 2 Delica beads here, and I come back down through the other hole of the mini. And you can see I keep flipping this piece, and you can definitely do that. This is not like peyote stitch where you kind of need to keep everything straight. You can flip it to work however you need to. So now I have a 15, and I'm going to come back through this purl here so that when I get that done, that sets that little mini up here and has my little Delicas up top. So I'm going to go through the 15 and the mini. I pick up 2 Delica beads, and I basically am skipping those here, and I'm going to come down through the other hole of the mini and the 15. And I'm going to pull this through. So you can see now that I'll put me my little glop of 15s up there, and I'm ready to go. So I'm going to pick up 2 15s, and I'm going to skip the purl and come down through the 15 and the mini. And again, this is why we use the size 12 needle, so that you can maneuver and get your needle through those beads. Ah, goodness gracious. There we go. Okay, and you see what happens there? It puts my 2 little beads in place. So now I'm gonna come up through the other hole of the mini and through the 15, and again, make sure your thread does not get caught. I cannot speak today. Then I'm going to pick up 2 15s, and I'm going to come up here through the 15 and the mini right above it. So now I have 2 little flower segments. So I'm going to go over one more time how to connect our beads here at the top. So I'm going to come through one of my Delicas. This is now what I'm going to call stack 1. I come down through stack 2. And then up through stack 1 again. And when I pull this thread straight, you see what happened there. It straightened those beads out. I'm going to come to the next stack, but I'm going to be working back this way. So this is actually, again, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to come down through stack 4. And then up through stack 1 again. So this way it straightens those out. And I'm going to come down through stack 4 again. My front ones are straight, my back ones are not. So I go up through stack 3. Well, I say I'm going to go up through stack 3. Let's get it here. Stack 3. Go down through stack 4. Up through 3 again. And when you pull, oh, just look how nice and pretty and straight they are. But you can look here and see, I still don't have these 2 beads connected. So that's important. So we got to go down through stack 2 and then up through stack 3 again. So that now I can start my herringbone stitch again with my regular size 11 seed beads. So we have 2 sets of our little daisies done on this specific piece. If you look at the finished necklace itself, you'll see that this one is a 17.5-inch necklace, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you can add as many of these sets as you need. Each set has 6 sets of herringbone, so 6 sets of my green in between each of these little flowers. All right, so you kind of have to decide once you get these done, okay, you know, what am I gonna do with this? Am I going to do it like this? Am I going to tack it? Because if you're going to tack it, that's going to take out some of this length here. So you would need to make this section longer to make up for losing this length here. Because that length that I've got on this one takes up about 3¼ inches. All right, so it would take up that much of my length. So you kind of have to decide, you know, at that point, once you get these on, how you're going to wear it. Okay, so we're going to continue on until we have all of our little daisies added down one side that we want to do. Okay, so let's talk about what happens when you start to run out of thread. So you can see here, I only have a few inches of my working thread left. So from where I'm coming out, I am basically going to start just stitching down through beads, down and up, down and up. Okay, and then maybe when I get down here, like on this side, I'll try to put a little half hitch knot. Okay, and then I'll go up. And then I'll come down. And this time when I come down, maybe since I'm right here at this little, you know, flower section, maybe I'll just go ahead if I can get my needle down through there. Because like I said, at this point, it's pretty tight. So if I can kind of get my needle back down there, I will stitch through several beads. We just want to try to get rid of as much of this tail thread as possible. And then I can take and I can nip off that little edge there. So now I'm ready to add the new thread. So I'm going to cut my new piece of thread about 2 yards or whatever you're comfortable with. And I'm going to thread my needle on here and I'm going to show you how to add our thread now. Okay, so I have my new piece of thread cut and it's 2 yards and I actually have a needle on each end. So I have my needle that I'm going to be working with, and then on the other end I've put on another needle, and I'm just going to leave a pretty short tail thread on this end of the thread. And from where I want to start, from the column I'm going to start at, I need to come down through that column. Okay, and I'm going to pull through, and once I get about 6 inches pulled through. I'm just going to use my hands to hold on right here. And then I'm going to start stitching through my beads. Just like I got rid of the thread, this is how we are going to add our thread too. So now that I have a little bit more thread, I can go ahead and pull that down a little bit more. But I'm just going to start stitching through my beads and getting this thread locked into place. So you can see I've pulled through just a little because I want my working thread to be up here so I can still continue to work with it. So I'm just going to just stitch through just like I did a little while ago. And it's one of those things, you know, I always say it really doesn't matter how you go through and get rid of thread as long as you don't see it. And that's what we're aiming for. We don't want to see thread, you know, on the outside of our beads or on top of it or whatever. So, and at this point, it's pretty tight. So if you try to skimp through and use a size 10 needle, you're going to bust beads and you're going to be really unhappy. So just be patient and use your 11 or use your size 12 needle. Lord knows we don't want to do all this work to get these minis and all that added, and then we bust them. So just be really careful. Well, that might be as far as, there we go. I'd say that might be as far as we can go with that. All right, so now I know that this thread is not going to go anywhere. So now I can take and I can get rid of my short thread so that now I can continue to work with my tail thread and it's already in place, ready to go. But now I did want to show you this sample that I'm making in today's video. I've used my Yuki brand seed beads. In this original sample, I used Toho brand seed beads. So I wanted to show you the difference of what's going to happen using the different brands. So you can see here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I've got 9 pearls on this one, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So my 9th one will be here. So that's going to take up that less room basically just by using a different brand of seed bead. They're the same size, just a different brand. So be aware of that too as you are doing the length for your necklace. Okay, so I have all of my flowers done for this side. Now I wanted to show you, like I showed you a minute ago, on this one, I actually made this one a little bit longer as far as I added a couple of more flowers here. But remember, this is my Yuki and this is Toho. So this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 flowers. Well, to here, this is 10 flowers on this one. So you'll see there that your Yuki and your Toho are going to have a little bit of a difference in their sizing. But what I did was I've gone ahead, when I finished this last one here, I've gone ahead and I've made a little strip of herringbone that again is going to be approximately 3 1/4 inches. So now that I have that done, just straight herringbone with my regular size 11 seed beads, I'll now go through and I will go ahead and continue to add the flowers on this side the same amount so that I will have an even necklace and I can continue to go ahead and put the clasp on and finish it out. So if you watched yesterday's video, the great thing about the pendant is we're going to use a lot of the same materials to make the necklace. This necklace complements this pendant so well. You can wear it as a normal necklace, just like this. We can tack these 2 little ones together here to make almost like a lasso style necklace, or you can make it into a wrap bracelet. So it's a fun piece to make and wear. So here's what you're going to need. You're going to need 3mm pearls. The 3mm pearls are going to make our little daisies as we go up through our chain here. I'm using the same color that I did from my pendant. You're going to need about 8 grams of a regular size 11 seed bead. You are going to need 1 gram of a size 11 Delica bead. You're going to need about 2 grams of a size 15 seed bead. And then instead of using super duos, you are going to need a mini duo to actually finish out the necklace part of it. When I tried to use the super duos in place of the minis, they stuck out too far and it did not work good. So that is why we are using minis. You can use any thread that you would like. Today I'm going to be using my teal 1G here because it goes with my beautiful greens. And you're going to need a size 12 needle along with some good sharp scissors. Once you've got the other side complete, you're now ready to add your clasp. To do this, I like to use size 6 seed beads. So I only have 2 of these, and that's all you'll need. So I'm here on the end, the very end that I finished with. And now we're actually going to add the size 6 seed bead here. So that way we can attach our clasp. You can see I'm coming out of my the stack that I finished with, and I did my step up with here. So this is my stack 1. I pick up the size 6 seed bead and I come down through stack 2. I take my needle and I come up through stack 3. I go through the size 6 seed bead and then down through stack 4. So that way, this is now completely even over that piece. You see how even that is there. So I'm just going to come up through the top bead of stack 1 again. And now all I'm going to do is work through and reinforce and follow these same steps that I've been following this whole time. And you want to reinforce several times because this is what's going to hold your clasp on. So make sure to reinforce. And this is why I think it's important as well to use a thread color that's going to match your beads really well. So this teal green that I'm using matches this bead just amazing. This really hides the thread so that you don't see it. If you wanted to, you could put like a little 15 on each side of it as well, but it's not something that you have to do. So once I know that this is secure and I don't have to worry about it, I can take and I can go ahead and, you know, put some high-pitch knots in here if I want to. It's not necessary. You can just, you know, stitch through your beads just like I showed you earlier. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a little high-pitch knot on each side of this. And then I'm going to stitch down through the beads and start to get rid of this thread. Just like we've been doing throughout the piece. And once I'm happy with the security of this, I can take and then trim off this thread. So I know that this thread isn't going anywhere. I'm going to go ahead and trim that off. So now you can take your pliers. I'm going to be using a flat nose and a round nose. And I'm going to put a lobster claw, a swivel lobster claw on this one. So all I'm going to do is grab a hold of each side. And yes, I know that gold will look better, but all I have is silver laying here on my tray. So I've opened up that little jump ring. I'm going to thread it through that size 6 seed bead and then close the ring, making sure I get it completely closed there, so that now I have the clasp added to this side. So all I have to do is thread a needle onto this end and attach the other part of the clasp. So once you've got your other end complete, essentially your necklace is finished and you're ready to put the pendant on it. The great thing is the pendant will slide on one side and you can wear it, you know, just as a normal pendant, necklace, I should say. You can wrap it and wear it as a wrap bracelet like this. Or if you want to, you can also do like a lasso or a Y style. So doing that, we would basically tack these two flowers together so that this would be here and then you'll have a beautiful necklace. So I do this with a brand new piece of thread. I don't want to use the same working thread as I'm working, because that way if you ever decide, well, I don't really want it tacked anymore, then you can just knit that one little piece of thread and no worries, no problems. So to do this, the first thing you want to do is to make sure that you have a straight line of beads. All right, you don't want this twisted whatsoever. So I've gone ahead with my new piece of thread and I put on a stop bead here. And I'm going to pick up my two pieces and I am going to get ready to tack those two pieces in place. So you'll remember that these two beads right here, we actually added those. So I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come up through those two beads. So if you're left-handed, you know, you can come up through the ones on the left, completely up to you. But I'm just going to come up through those and I'm using my regular 11s. And I'm going to pick up two of these and I'm going to come down through the two beads here on this left side. And I'm going to pick up two 11s and I'm going to go up through the 15s on this right side and pull them together just like this. So I can kind of just take and slide this stop bead down just a little so that it looks like this. Now I'm going to go through 111 of this first set of two here. I'm going to pick up 111 and I'm going to come through the 11, the two 15s, and the 11. So this sort of mimics how Rangashri did the bell on her piece. So I'm just mimicking that shape. So then I'm coming out of that 11, I pick up an 11, and then I come through this 11, and now that center is tacked, and it will wear more like a lasso or a Y style necklace. If I wanted to, I could also probably pop a pearl in here, but it's completely up to you. You know, there's lots of options. So I'm just going to go through now and I'm just going to reinforce this. And when I get back over here to where my tail thread is, I'm going to pull off the stop bead and tie the threads together. That's why I said it's so nice when you do it like this, because you really can, you know, just nip this one piece of thread. So I'll take the stop bead off. And then tie these two threads together. And then I will stitch through some beads with each of my threads to get rid of those tail threads. And that'll also help to kind of pull the knot up. So nippers, 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 where are you? So I would trim this. And then I would thread a needle onto this other tail thread that I've got. That one's not going to work because that hole's plugged. And then this side I can take and run through this way. I just want to run it through a couple of beads. So now that I've got that, now that piece is more complete as far as how that will look when you wear it. So you can see there's several options that you have here with your different necklaces. So guys, I hope you enjoyed learning how to make this necklace that goes along with my friend Ranga Shree's Dainty Daisy pendant design from yesterday. Now remember, if you did not see yesterday's video, we'll post a link below in the description box that you can click on and go to this video. Also, you can check out the link below at ShreeDesignsLLC.com to purchase your copy of Ranga Shree's pattern for this Dainty Daisy pendant. And make sure to reach out and give her some love and tell her thank you for doing this collaboration video with me. Also, at offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com, you can find the pattern for the Dainty Daisy chain necklace that goes along with the pendant. It is a almost 10-page step-by-step full color pattern that goes along with today's project. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Ranga Shree, thank you for reaching out to me and doing this collaboration video. And guys, please come back next week, because we're going to do a whole new fun project that I cannot wait to show you. You guys have a wonderful week, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.